Eli, he knew how to blend in. Church was muscle memory. Hands raised during worship, polite nods during sermons, the occasional tear during altar calls. He was the good kid at youth group, the one parents pointed to and said, "Why can't you be more like Eli?" But no one saw the shadows. They didn't see how he cried under the covers when his dad never showed for visitation. They didn't see the bruises, emotional, not physical, left by a mother who numbed her pain with pills and silence. They didn't see how he'd stare at his ceiling at 2 a.m., begging God to just say something. But heaven felt locked. So, at 17, Eli made a quiet vow. If you won't show up for me, I won't show up for you. And it didn't happen in one moment. It was a slow fade. He started skipping church, at first just on rainy Sundays, but then every Sunday. His Bible collected dust, his heart collected walls, until one night something inside snapped. He stood alone in his childhood bedroom, dimly lit by a flickering lamp. On the wall above his bed hung a small wooden cross, hand-carved, a gift from his grandfather. Eli stared at it like it was a stranger. He walked over, ripped it off the wall. His chest heaved. "Where were you?" he shouted. The silence was suffocating. He clenched the cross so tightly it dug into his palm. Then he dropped it onto the floor like it had betrayed him. He grabbed his old, worn Bible, pages curled, scribbled with notes from a younger, more hopeful version of himself, and tossed it into the kitchen trash can without hesitation. The lid slammed shut like a coffin. Then slowly, deliberately, Eli walked back to his room and closed the door. Physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And he locked it from the inside. 10 years had passed. A new city, a new name on his office door, a high-rise apartment with glass walls and cold air. His life was spotless on the outside. But inside, Eli was still that 17-year-old boy, angry, tired, hollow. He had money, women, whiskey, and weekend distractions. But every so often, in the quiet moments, he'd feel it. The knock. It didn't rattle him. It wasn't loud. Just a subtle tug in the silence. A gentle pressure against the locked door of his soul. And no matter how hard he tried to drown it out, with noise, with drinks, with busyness, it stayed, always knocking, until one Friday, everything unraveled. His girlfriend packed up her things without warning. "You don't let anyone in," she said at the door, "not even yourself." That same day, his manager called him into the office. "We're downsizing," he said with pity in his eyes. "It's not personal." And then the phone rang again. This time, a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Harper?" a nurse's voice. "Your mother's in critical condition. She's been asking for you." Eli hadn't seen his mother in 6 years. He remembered the last words he said to her. "You chose the pills over me." But now, here he was, racing through highways under gray skies, windshield wipers slicing through the rain, heart pounding louder than the tires against wet asphalt. He arrived at 3:11 a.m. The hallway smelled of antiseptic and loss. The fluorescent lights hummed like a funeral dirge. He rushed into room 208. Too late. She was still. Eyes closed, hand already cold. Eli stood frozen. But then he noticed something. Beside her, on the table, was a Bible. Not just any Bible, his. The one he'd thrown away 10 years ago. It was beat up now, with water-stained pages and his childhood name scrawled on the inside cover. A folded note sat tucked in the front flap. He opened it with trembling hands. His mother's handwriting was weak, shaky. "I prayed for you every night. I told Jesus not to give up, and he didn't. He's still knocking. Love, Mom." Well, Eli's legs gave out. He collapsed on the cold tile floor. No words, just sobs, deep, raw, soul-racking sobs. He didn't weep for his mom. He wept for the years he'd been running. He wept for the little boy who waited for a dad that never came. He wept for the door he had slammed and the Savior who never left the porch. That morning, as the sun barely broke over the hospital roof, Eli wandered across the street to the tiny chapel. No one was inside. The pews creaked under his weight. The stained glass windows flickered with dusty morning light. He didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. He just sat there, wrecked, empty, open. And that's when it happened. The chapel door creaked open behind him. A soft breeze moved through the room like a whisper. Eli turned, and for a moment he swore he saw him standing there. Jesus. Not angry, not distant, just there, with eyes full of mercy, with a face that had never left, with a heart that had never given up, and a hand scarred, steady, still knocking. Eli didn't speak. He just nodded through the tears. "You came back," he whispered, and Jesus didn't say a word. He just walked forward as Eli unlocked the door. Friends, even if you've slammed the door, screamed into the silence, or tried to throw away every trace of your faith, Jesus didn't leave. He didn't walk away when you did. He didn't stop knocking when you stopped praying. He stayed because love doesn't quit, because grace doesn't walk away, because Jesus always comes back for the one who closed the door. God bless you, my friends.